The price is wrong, Bob. Why do we love watching people trip and fall and break things, break themselves, mess up, do horrible things? I don't know, but line right up because I do too. I'm Nathan, musician, mortician, spent 13 years in the funeral profession. We're going to be talking about funeral mishaps and musical mishaps because I'm the musician and mortician. Before we dive in, be sure to subscribe, click the bell to be notified when I release content just like this and more. Go Bulls! All right, here we go. Do you ever have one of those days where nothing goes right? Literally everything is wrong. Well, imagine that happening during a funeral or a music performance. It happens to me all the time. I can't remember my words to my songs that I wrote, which are inspired by my works as a funeral director. And imagine messing up at a funeral. Let's dive into that. Stick around because I'm going to tell you some really ridiculous stories. Not necessarily about me, but that have happened and maybe even been caught on camera. Let's kick things off with a funeral story. Let's be very somber. Picture this. It's a beautiful sunny day. The service is going smoothly and then, the sprinklers go off in the middle of the eulogy. Yep, you heard that right. Apparently, the cemetery's automated sprinkler system closest to the road, not where they actually dig, because if you think about it, then you'd be busting pipes, but close enough to the road, but therefore long enough of a stream to get some funeral attendees, get them all soaking wet. But maybe it was a hot day. Maybe they needed to cool off. Maybe they were really warm because there's no hotter place than a cemetery. We're going to switch some gears to a musical mishap. I was performing at this very small, intimate venue, and everything was perfect. The crowd was loving it. The vibe, all of it was just, it's delicious. And then mid-song, my microphone stopped working. It wasn't the receiver or transmitter or any of that. It was, we thought we charged the batteries because you rotate the batteries. You have charged, not charged. You have this little plastic thing. It was a dead microphone. Hello? Hello, is this thing on? Is this thing on? Let me know in the comments below something really embarrassing that may or may not have happened to you. And actually, let us laugh at you together. To funerals. These seem to be the really juicy ones. We had a dove release ceremony planned. This wasn't me, we meaning they who submitted this response. They had a dove release planned, okay? It sounds beautiful, right? You know the doves, you open them up, the cage, and then they... Did you know that the people who bring the doves, they're trained. They're not just going out and capturing a ton of doves every time and then they're releasing them to the wild. No, these doves are trained. And when you release them, i.e. open the cage and the doves, they fly out during this most beautiful part of the committal, which more than likely they've already ruined the funeral for reading the obituary that the family planned. I won't go in that. That's a whole other video. We'll get to that. But they release the doves. The doves fly over those at the committal service at the gravesite. And then across the street, a road, a truck drills the dove explodes. Kind of like Randy Johnson throwing that fastball and then that bird just exploding. If you haven't seen that video, you should. Nonetheless, this was a family that was just experiencing something that they thought was going to be beautiful, miraculous, like their loved one's soul entering into eternity. The doves representing such, and talk about a rude awakening. Here it is, the most outrageous mishap that I've personally experienced. It was a very high-profile funeral. Everything had to be perfect because we're humans and we can't make mistakes, ever. All the pallbearers, as they were carrying the casket, one of them tripped over a flower arrangement. The flowers went everywhere. The water went everywhere. The casket wobbled. Oh, and for a split second, I thought we were going to have a tremendous disaster on our hands. I thought in that moment, whose fault is this? It's going to be my fault. It doesn't matter that 6 people that the family chose are making such a mistake. It was my fault that flower arrangement was there. It was my fault that the dude on the right kicked it after we said, hey, be sure to watch your feet. There are flower arrangements here. There are countless times we go to the cemetery and those monuments, the ones that are flat monuments, not the ones that stick up, even the ones that stick up, you say, hey, you have a monument to your left or you have a monument right below you and you have people just tripping and falling and can't get up. I wonder whose fault that would have been. I thought I was going to die. Thankfully, they regained their balance, but the look on everyone's faces was priceless. It took everything in me not to bust out laughing. Whose fault would it have been? Let me know in the comments. Would it have been the pallbearer's fault? I was told once by an old timer, hey, you know how to make an ass out of a man? Put a flower on him. The pallbearers, that is. And if you like this video so far, be sure to subscribe. Click the bell to be notified when I release content just like this. I mean, my music has been inspired by my works as a funeral professional. It's a beautiful profession filled with incredible people and also some really grumpy ones, too. Last but not least, I'll throw you a little bonus one in. We were getting a casket ready. We had the loved one in the chapel reposing, and you have to raise the head and the foot sometimes to make sure you make your final adjustments. Well, you have a hinge on either side. Some of them you push in with your thumb and you hear, that means you can close. And others, it's like a hinge. You have to pull the hinge forward to then loosen or unlock so it can fold down. And this particular hinge was a wood casket, and it was where you pull forward. It wasn't locked all the way, so just the slightest movement went crush on my hand. My hand's bleeding. I'm running around screaming. I go out of the chapel, down the hall, and guess what? Around the corner, the truest of stories, a family walk in. A family not that we had served, not that we would serve, a family that we are serving. Less than 2% of families contact a funeral home when a death occurs by doing what's called walking in. And the mother, the son, and the daughter come walking around the corner because their loved one had died. And instead of making a phone call or the nurse calling or the coroner calling, they're just coming in and they want to make arrangements there. While my dumbass is running down the hall going, ah. It was mortifying. It hurt so bad. It was not good. How do you play that off? I just said, hey, sorry about that. Sorry about that. What's the most embarrassing thing? That's up there for me. What's the most embarrassing thing that happened to you? See, if you get it off your chest, it's like, you know what? Who cares? And by the way, who cares what people think about you? Who cares? But I do care if you click the link right there in the description, become a trier. That is the community in which we are building together, because without community, what do you have? That's all for this video. If you would like to hear more embarrassing, ridiculous, mortifying content, be sure to subscribe. My music's streaming everywhere. Go check it out. Like Villain. You could be a bully. Maybe you were bullied. If you're a bully, stop it. But who cares what people say about you, think about you, feel about you? It's none of your business. Okay, until next time.